hell yeah. So it'd be sweet once this thing gets structure enough where I can just feel comfortable in it like my own boat. And I think that's kind of what's happening is, you know, before actually getting this kind of strengthened up, I was just hesitant to even kind of move around in it. But it's doing what I want it to do. Now that tip, that's what I left room for, because that tip might just want to go till, you know what I mean? So from here till wherever, you know what I mean? I can then put that in. So this is how much tip that I gave it, which is good. And then we got two different tips. You have a tip sideways, and then you do have a release on this 3/4. And so see how, you know what I mean? Is this kind of making sense? That if you're in your R1 position, hell yeah, you can be right on your planing surface. This would be neutral. You can be centered. Or I mean, just even that, going from here to centered in the boat, I can shift to the other side and release maybe a couple inches. And so all of these are going to be useful to either raise up 2 inches, 4 inches, you know, 6 inches. Now that's extreme, but again, I just wanted to make sure this is the 3/4 release. Now this 3/4 release doesn't have to be that aggressive. You know what I mean? Just as this is the sideways. See that difference? Like this sideways could be just half. It could go to there. And then even this, like this is 2 different things. This 3/4 release is on the floor. And so the design of the floor is this is the 3/4 release, where this is kind of acting as a sponson over here if I really want to dig into this. And hell yeah, now I'm really excited because this back quadrant is looking really good. And so let's spin the boat around. And it's just like, and this is what it should be like. R1ing should be just like kayaking, where you're just like, hell yeah, I feel the performance, I see what attributes are gonna do what, and I'm gonna go utilize those. All right, so hell yeah. So this is neutral. I'm just gonna, and I need to get used to like, hey, figuring out where I want to paddle, because that's the thing. This you know, since I put all this effort in, I might have to come through here and trim off this. But you know what I mean. If I just raise it up a little bit, then you know, because on a round boat, this is more rounded, and usually if your hip is right here, you're going to be paddling right off the hip. So all of this kind of gets in the way of the design. Let's go over here. And then the other aspect of it is just from the neutral position, I am more reached out. So that is kind of the thing, is just like, well, what can you get away with? Is it extra benefit? Are the functions of the boat going to be better if you have to sacrifice reaching out just a little bit more for your stroke? Because I think so. I think R1ing is so inefficient that if you can do different things, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like sometimes you don't need a lot of paddle stroke if you're going to get your boat doing those different things. So again, neutral, or I guess this would be neutral planing on this surface, and then this would be a sideways tip. So that's not bad. I'm just going to see if a sideways tip is the same here, about, and then that front is unstable. Okay, sideways tip here. This is a little bit more, this one is a little bit higher tipped. And that's the thing, if I was tipping this, I would want to sit up higher and just more level. If I was sitting up higher and more level, like right here, this looks great. I don't think this is going to be too much to get in the way. Okay, so let's go back to this 3/4. Now this technically is a 3/4 release, it's just from the floor. And then I have this 3/4 tip to right there. Now the same thing over here. Here's my neutral. And then here, so we have neutral side, and then here's the 3/4 release of the floor. And then just like right here. And then I can tip back onto that surface. Okay, hell yeah. And then let's see. Because I just wanted to know, what I wanted to figure out is where I want my feet, because I really do think, as an R1er, you want to come back to this position. You know what I mean? And this is actually making sense, because a lot of the performance in R1 is getting this foot underneath you. Because if I want to move to there, I got to get this foot underneath me, and then now my center of mass is directly over this foot, and now I can shift. This is so fundamental to actually like moving around the boat. If I did a spin and I wanted to get over there, I take this foot, drive it underneath me, and then I just roll over that foot, and then get to the other side. And this is good because there are some soft pieces of cardboard in here. Okay, hell yeah. And so this boat is still even just a little bit bigger than I imagined too, because what I really wanted was from the center compartment to be able to reach back here and kind of do these moves, which I think it looks good. I think I'll be able to do that. Except, you know what I mean, I was thinking about trimming it right here. You know what I mean? So could you do everything, you know, and just get back to here? I think so. Yeah, so that's kind of what we're going to experiment with. I think the height on everything can go real high. That's the other thing in R1ing is it's an unstable thing anyway, or it's unstable because you're higher, but you can use that to your advantage. And that's kind of what I want to do with these boats, is like if you are able to edge, what I have found is like the RMR Fat Cat, if this is a 20-inch tube, you're already just sitting, and it's a rounded tube, you know, it's already finding, you can already find neutral on that rounded tube. So my design will be like, hey, if I do go onto the surface, it's already level. You know what I mean? So that means that this actually has to be like, you know, sloped up. So when I do lean into that, so that's kind of what I want. This is the guts, and that's what I want to build up that foam compartment to see where I want the foam and really flush it out. But just my comfort level here is superior to when I didn't have this rigidly. And you can just, but it's still like I'm just precarious on different positions. And that's been the nature of R1 for years. We're precariously on a rounded tube with our hip. And the only other contact is this inside leg where, you know what I mean, no one has made like a foamed out impression where you could even like get your hip up against something. Like, and I'll stress this to our runners, if you're leaning outside the boat, you know what I mean, but you're not moving your hips at all, you could put hip pads, you know what I mean, like right here, just some sort of bump out to be like capture you, and you could still do your low bracing. And it could be dynamic, you know what I mean? I recognize that. That's why I'm going to work on the cockpit being like a foam cockpit. And so like, yeah, so if I had something right here, I can push into it and it's going to give, and I could get into this lower position and do your low braces. All right, so hell yeah, I think I'm done. And that was a pretty good little session actually. This is like literally one of the first sessions I've actually had in this with the paddle. Before this, I didn't even think I'd be able to paddle over these edges. It's very drift boat. I should say dory, because the dories of the Grand Canyon, this is kind of what that's reminiscent of. And that is, you know, like reading Emerald Mile, running the Grand Canyon for myself, and an R1er, I definitely saw this as a superior design. Every time, you know, since that, you know, trip down the Grand Canyon 2017, I was always eyeing dories and seeing how they high side, you know what I mean? this, especially if you can get, probably just a vertical wall's fine. But I mean, anything better, I mean, and if it's even more sloped. And what we're doing is we're going to try to get this vertical wall going that way and release this corner. See how there's no catch on this corner? That can really release, sorry for clapping, that corner. And then, you know, that's also from the double-edged, what do they call it? The dual edge in a kayak, the double rail, making that probably just more rotation. Just easier to rotate, easier to surf and stuff, because you're not digging in corners, you're not building up, and yeah, so, and that really shows that water line, and especially these corners. That's kind of what I'm exposing in the rafting community, especially going to R1, is like, hey, those corners usually are the worst for a one-person boat, because they're digging in when you don't want them to. You're over here, and that thing is just digging in, you know, in a place that you don't want it to. Also, when you hit something, if you're not square to it, that thing's going to catch, dig, and then turn, and now you're like this, where I think you'll just have a lot more freedom, you know, hitting at wonkier angles, and still maintaining forward trajectory. So there are times where you do want rotational inertia, and it's fascinating that a paddle cat sometimes is the worst of both worlds. You know what I mean? It's very difficult to rotate when you paddle, which makes it very hard even to track straight. And then when you do hit something, if that starts to build, then that is just really going to take itself. Now the RMR Fat Cat is a very stable boat. I never felt like I was going to flip it, but the second that hooks up, you know what I mean, you're along for that ride. There's no paddle stroke to kind of undo that. And so that's where, you know what I mean, over here, here's the undo button. Just kind of all these edges. Now again, pretty extreme, but we can always foam out. You know, we can make this level. You know, we have a lot of options here, and so we're getting solid enough where, I don't know, I'm kind of at that place where it's just like, does this boat deserve fiberglass? I mean, it's the first one. Yeah, that's pretty sweet because it's the first one. If I did the poor man's, you know, fiberglass, I just don't think I would do more than the lake. It would get waterlogged and probably gross. It might actually lose its structural integrity after that. And so, yeah, so that's where I'm at. All right, we're done with this. Thanks for joining me. Booyah.